Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unity Center of Light. I am April May, and I'm going to be your facilitator today for our service. We're fortunate and blessed to have Reverend Richard Pacheco with us this morning as our guest speaker, and he's going to be taking us through a continuing journey on the Inside Out Part 2. And Reverend Richard also just recently spoke at our Unity Eastern Region Conference. He was one of our presenters, so we welcome him here today. And our guest musician is Rhonda Dene. So we welcome her, both of them back today, and know that we're in for quite a treat. So please join me in giving them a warm welcome today. All right. So I'd like to share with you, as we get ready to get started, the mission statement for Unity Center of Light. And if you would join me together in saying this, the mission of Unity Center of Light is to empower individuals to express their indwelling divine identity. We teach there is a power within each of us, far greater than anything that exists outside of us. In our foundation statement, there is only one power and one presence active in my life and affairs, God the good, omnipotent. Amen. We say that every week, but you almost can't say that too many times, can you? All right, so I'm now going to invite Christine Harper to share the daily word with us.
Good morning, Unity Center of Light. Today's daily word is loving. The boundless love of God expresses through me. I am loving. To be loving means to be kind, understanding, and generous. It means forgiving grievances easily and seeking to understand myself and others. In striving to be loving towards others, I begin with myself. Exercising self-compassion when I make a mistake makes forgiving others easier. Taking time for self-care makes it more natural for me to be a nurturing presence for others. Treating myself well helps make my generosity spontaneous and frequent. Love is the very nature of God. I am a spiritual being, which means love is my nature too. Through my loving nature, I am positive, optimistic, hopeful, and faith-filled. I am the heart and hands of God on earth. I am loving. And from 1 Corinthians 13:4-7, love is patient, love is kind, it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for sharing that loving daily word with us today. So before we move on into the rest of our service, I would just like to see if there is anybody here who's with us for the first time. I don't see any names that are new or recognize any faces that I don't recognize. Anybody here for the very first time? Okay. Well, there is a welcome in the chat this morning, and it also includes you, even if you're not new. If for any reason you're not getting our regular communications, please send me your email and we'll make sure you get signed up on those so that you're informed about everything that's going on here at Unity Center of Light. So today is an auspicious day indeed. I always look forward to having our friend Reverend Richard with us. And it's kind of funny, it hasn't not always been deliberate that Rhonda's been accompanying him with music, but it's worked out that way the last few times in a row. And I think they're a dynamic duo. I had shared earlier that Reverend Richard was one of our presenters at our recent Unity Eastern Region Fall Conference. And he's back with us today to continue our journey through Inside Out. So please join me in beaming your love and your appreciation towards Reverend Richard as he shares with us today.
All right, thank you. And I'm glad to be back as always. And as she said, we're going to continue our journey into Inside Out too. And I warned you about that the last time. So, as always, before we begin, let's just take a deep breath in, and we're just going to breathe our prayer today. We're just going to take a deep breath in. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And I want you just as you breathe in, begin to collect all those worries from yesterday and in the past, and know that it's living in the past. It's no longer here. And as we breathe out, just release it. Just allow it to kind of go into the universe and allow this energy, this loving energy, just to bless it. And on our second breath, let's just again collect all those anxieties, those worries about tomorrow, the things that haven't even been written yet, those things that bring us that anxiety that we're going to talk about today. And we're just going to breathe out and release it again, allowing it to just kind of be healed and loved by the universe. And in our third breath, we're going to center in. We're going to breathe deep all the way down into the seat, whether we want to call it our, you know, our root chakra, whether we just want to call it our seating position, but wherever we are, we want to breathe all the way deep into that, knowing that we are present here today. And that's where we will remain in love and open-mindedness as we continue to hear our lessons today. And we're so grateful, and so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. And one of the things I did want to address, because I got a question by another minister, and it's like, why movies? What is your fascination with lessons in movies? Now, I do talk about other lessons outside of movies, but I found it fun because of a few things. One, and I'm pretty sure you guys have talked about this, is the 4 teaching styles of Jesus. And those 4 teaching styles, of course, are precepts, which are kind of like sayings, like the biblical quote of, when doing charitable work, don't let the right hand know what your left hand is doing. So those quick sayings. Then we have proverbs, which of course are stories. Well, I figure movies fall into that category because we have an example of what we can see and understand in these stories. You know, I'll give you a perfect example that your own senior minister did a talk, and I hope I get the title right, was Two Become One. And he mentioned Ratatouille. Well, because I've seen the movie so many times with my kids, before I even heard his lesson, I knew where he was going with it. You know, of course, miracles, and then lastly is examples. And I think for me, movies are a great way to see examples of how different people's lives work. Now, again, I'm using Disney Pixar right now because Inside Out was, a great mind movie. If for those that I challenged last time I was here to go watch Inside Out too, and as I said, many adults came back and said they felt uncomfortable after the movie because it touched a lot of things within ourselves, even though they were talking about a 13-year-old girl. So if you felt uncomfortable, that's okay, because many of adults have come back and said that. And today we're going to put a lot of those things into perspective and show you how that uncomfortable feeling actually can be a blessing in your life. So again, the film takes us on a journey inside of the mind of a teenage girl named Riley, whose emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust navigate the complexities of the adolescence along new emotions like anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and also we called it emo, they called it ennui, and nostalgia, which has a very little part in the movie, but she's cute and keeps getting kicked out, but it was nice. So today we know that we go through a lot of emotions. I mean, we're touched on so many different places. And when we use and talking about the teachings of Jesus, we use the same examples of Jesus. And again, we only know what the storytellers tell us in the Bible, but we can imagine what he may have gone through. Keep in mind when we talk about him going through the 40 days of fasting in the desert, we talked about him being challenged to turn bread into stone. Well, that automatically tells us he was hungry. Okay. But he had to battle that for himself. We talked about the emotion of envy. If you bow down to me, I'll give you all of these things. And then finally, testing God. Throw yourself off and let the angels catch you. And again, I'm paraphrasing it quickly. But these are the things that when we look at these examples, not just in Jesus, but the life of Buddha, Siddhartha, or any other luminary in our life, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, any of them, we can begin to see how they had their challenges, or even imagine where they had challenges in their emotions, but turned it into good. So when we look at the movie, we know Riley's a center character, and in her head, she has a headquarters. She has all these emotions. They have even a dashboard, which plays a big part in Inside Out too. And in this, that each emotion, whether it feels positive or negative, always has a part. So in Inside Out 2, we begin to learn how emotions can make our life better. So the first thing we talk about is joy and sadness. Now, if you remember my last talk, we talked about how joy and sadness actually can come together. They are not opposite sides of the spectrum, but actually complement each other. Well, we see that in Inside Out 2 as it begins. We see that joy and sadness begin to work together. In fact, there's a scene where she's about to create a core memory, as they call it, and she asks sadness to come along. So they're working together now. So if you were at our last talk, you know how these two things work together. Joy brings lights and energies, while sadness allows us to process and release our pain. And together they create a balance that helps us grow and evolve. And that's what's important in our lives today. I think it was Charles Fillmore, he said, in the laws of spirit, we must be which we draw to us. If we draw to us love, we must be loved, be loving and kind. If we have peace and harmony in our environment, we must establish it within ourselves. So when we found that balance in life between sadness and joy, it's not about always being happy. And we talked about what we call spiritual malpractice, which is where we walk around going, no, everything must be good, everything must be happy, everything must be that. We know it's not the case. We have people who are going through grief. But when we learn that life balance of emotions, we know that we can still grieve, but we can also still have joy in the time that we had with that person. And grief takes on a whole light of, whether it's, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a pet, a loss of, a loss of a job, a loss of a relationship. Any of those things can bring grief up. But when we can go back and say, okay, this may have happened, but here's the good times, and we can bring that balance into life, then it helps us to grow and evolve. Because as we go through life and we are triggered, one of the big things I learned during trauma training was trauma is not, as most people say, is that reaction, whatever. No, it's an adaptive practice. It is something that our minds created to adapt to something we saw as traumatic in our lives. But when we begin to balance ourselves, when we begin to bring those emotions, in fact, I love the fact when I was training in martial arts, in Japanese martial arts, we call this motion gasho, which to most of us is a prayer position. But in Japanese tradition and many traditions, they believe that that's the balance of the right and left hemisphere of our mind coming together. So as a practice, I say when things go wrong or it feels out of balance, bring your hands together and breathe. And it may start a prayer. It may start some affirmations. It may just be a focus point. When I do Reiki, my focus in my breathing would be to the tips of my fingers. So that's joy and sadness. So we're going to put them on the back burner for now, but they are a perfect example of the balancing of our life and our emotions. So now it's embracing change because we know we have new emotions that showed up. And if you watch the movie, you know it was a wrecking crew that came in, destroyed the dashboard, destroyed everything, woke everybody up, and all of a sudden there's 5 new people in the room. So you have new emotions like anxiety and envy, and they symbolize the changes that we experience as we grow. And I'll make this this one point. I tell people if you have a YOU group, those are your focus points in a lot of places. I did a talk many years ago at Unity of NEPA where we talked about crossing the bridge, where most people will cross the bridge, go to the middle, see what they need in the salvation of their life on the other side, but they refuse to cross over fear and run back. Well, for me, teenagers have always been in the middle. See, they're in that stage of life where part of them wants to be the baby. They still want to be mommy's and daddy's little girl or boy or whatever. And then there's part of them reaching out to become an adult. So that's where, and if you raise teenagers, you know what I'm talking about, where they're in that, I'm trying to find my identity, but I still want to be coddled, you know? And that's where when we start to see anxiety and envy in the movie, it shows that as we're growing, things are happening. These emotions can be challenging, but they can also be an opportunity. So using the movie as an example, Riley was going to camp. She met some high schoolers who were hockey heroes for her. Well, now I envy because I saw something I liked and I want to be like them. She got the news that her friends weren't going to the same high school she was. So now she's got that and anger and sadness from her last group. But then on top of that is the anxiety of fitting in. I want these people to like me. I'm going to do this, you know, and they begin to work through a lot of things and she's going crazy. In fact, in the movie, when she taps into her anxiety, it comes to a point. I wish I wanted to purchase the licensing, but I didn't get to it in time, was to show that clip. Because basically the movie's premise is what we would call creating that personality, creating that identity. So going back to the beginning of the movie, we see that joy and sadness who are working together are creating these, what we would call mind memes, or these ties, these strings of memories that become her personality. And as anxiety joins in, now she's changing these strings. She's taking, no, we're worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. There's a part of envy. Oh no, we can't look like that because. How many of us adults are still going through a lot of that stuff? In fact, before joining this morning, I was watching a video on getting rid of imposter syndrome. Okay, so the point here is that we all deal with anxiety, we all deal with that, and the bad part is that sometimes instead of the world coming together, we give these titles bad. Oh, you have anxiety? Let's throw something at it. Let's do this. Oh no, you're suffering from. Well, we're not suffering. When we truly looked at anxiety and envy, could actually be great tools in our wheelhouse. And we need to let go of those things. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, says we must learn to let go and give up to make room for the things we have prayed for and desired. Well, what if I told you that envy may just be a trigger of what we really desire? What if it's awakening us to say, hey, I like what she or he has. Maybe it's something I want. I tell people all the time, if I sat here and gave you all the certified titles I'd have, we'd be scrolling for about 5 minutes. And it was because part of my envy was, I like that. I want to do that. I want to help people. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I didn't know how to navigate life. So I just kept getting certified and certified and certified and certified and certified. And probably have done maybe 20% of what I'm certified at. But now when I look back, I realize that all these titles, all they said was that Richard wants to serve. Richard wants to help. Richard wants to empower people. It's not about you listening to Richard talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's about me hoping that I can inspire, if I can, as the Latin etymology, espirito, to breathe into, that I can breathe some type of inspiration into you to take that action. Just like principle number 5 always tells us, the truth is not enough. We need to live the truth we know. Now let's take anxiety. Anxiety, a lot of times we give it a bad name because, again, we're shaking. And in fact, the movie shows where anxiety no longer knows how to control himself. He's holding on to the bar. And this is the clip I wanted to use, but to use it on a recording, I had to get a whole licensing and a whole bunch of whatever. But if you watch the movie or going to watch the movie after this, you'll see the scene I'm talking about. He's holding on. She's doing this. She's moving it back and forth. And it gets to the point where she's spiraling out of control. Now, this is in the mind. Outside of mind, you see Riley. She's been benched. She's rocking back and forth. She's her mind. What am I? I'm good. I'm not good. I'm this. I'm that. I'm the other. And it gets to that point where she's ready to explode. How many of us have been there? We joke about it. Sometimes we watch it on TV and be like, oh my God, we see this person rocking. How many of us has found ourselves rocking without even thinking about it because it's just a mechanism to calm ourselves down? But what if anxiety becomes a tool of saying, hey, there may be a potential challenge. There may be potential danger. There may be potential things, but that might help us in the future because now we can navigate, not run from. Yeah, I love the acronym. People say, well, fear is false evidence appearing real. Then somebody else said, no, face everything and rise. I like that second one. Okay, I know this could happen, but guess what? I'm going for it. And if it does happen, well, that's my pause. What do I do now? Be still and know. Be still and know. I'm here. I may be scared. I may be whatever. Stop. Breathe. Be still and know. But like I said, anxiety can help us prepare for the future. Envy can reveal our desires and aspiration, guiding us toward what we truly value. There's a movie, it's more of a personal development movie called The Keepers of the Keys. It's a little cheesy, but it's inspirational. And one of the guys always said that one of the most important things is standards. So a lot of us stay below our standards because we're people pleasing. We're keeping friends in our wheelhouse that, we want to keep them happy because if they're gone, we're going to feel less than, things like that. We keep, things around us. But when we finally see what we truly desire and we set those standards for ourselves, and those standards change. So we talk about the embracing change. So now we know that anxiety, as it shows its ugly head, as most people say, can actually be a tool, a blessing in our lives. Envy can actually lead us to what we truly desire. But once envy comes into the picture and now they're going crazy and whatever, it goes back to that whole thing. What is it you have faith in? Well, you guys are talking about Eric Butterworth. Well, here's one of his great quotes. There is no such thing as a lack of faith. We all have plenty of faith. It's just what we have faith in, or that we have faith in the wrong thing. We have faith in what can't be done rather than what can be done. I love when I talk to people and people are like, well, I don't know because I can't. Okay, I don't want to hear what you can't. Tell me what you can do and let's start there. I tell that to myself many a times too. So when we begin to see that she's losing control and Joy walks up to her and says, let go. Just let go. And for us, I tell you, take an anxiety breath in the middle of that thing and let go. And let God. Let that inspiration take a break and come through you afterwards. I don't know how many times I've been in that position of like, oh my God, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And then I got voices outside of me trying to help, but sometimes they don't realize that that help is just driving me crazy even more because I'm listening to this one, I'm listening to that one, and now I'm feeling like her holding onto the handlebars and I'm going all crazy. But then I take a breath and say, okay, lead me. Whatever it is for you, lead me, inspire me, tell me what is my next step. So we now have Joy touches her, tells her to let go, she lets go. And they realize that she's still in anxiety, but they find that it's her personality is coming up. So now it becomes the harmony that we must learn of emotions. Who thought a kids movie would have so many profound areas of our lives? Okay. We become unified through the harmony of emotions. Riley's emotions must learn to work together. We must, too, embrace the diversity of our inner experiences. Each emotion has a place and a purpose. By acknowledging and honoring all our feelings, we create a harmonious inner world. The unity within ourselves reflects the greater unity we seek in the community of our world. So within, so without. We begin to see that as Joy now can work with anxiety and things like that. In fact, I love it because it's the cutest thing in the world where in the ending scenes, anxiety goes running to the dashboard and she goes, oh, but what? She goes, no, no, no. Let's go back to our chairs. They bought her a lazy boy chair, gave her some hot cocoa or whatever it was she was drinking. And the chair was a massage chair. So they turned on the massage and she's, oh, okay, I'm good. And it's because now they found balance, you know. We need to learn to honor that each feeling we have, each emotion we have, it's okay to feel the emotion. But I think I quoted Lisa Nichols the last time where she says it's okay to visit, but it's not okay to move back in. We need to learn to harmonize it. Know that for every joy, there may be sadness. And like I said, for every embarrassment, he was a new cute character in the movie, but it's true. You know, I said I was listening to a thing of imposter syndrome because anxiety was telling me, not today, but in other times, why am I going to show up? Why am I going to do this? I'm not going to be liked. I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to be that. How do I help other people? How do I help people when I can't help myself sometimes? But it is that harmony of emotion that says, you know what, Rich, that's okay. It's okay to feel like that. But let's understand that those are possibilities, but there's probably another 100 possibilities where they will like you and they will bring you in and they will do this, or that you will be able to help somebody. You know, my mentors used to always say, if out of 100 people, you help one person, you've helped more than needed. So we talked about the balance of life, we talked about embracing change, and we talked about the harmony of emotions, knowing that every emotion works together. In fact, the one character that, like I said, has a very small part because they keep kicking her out is nostalgia. Being able to sit back and say, kind of like I said today, was how many weeks ago when your senior minister talked about, you know, two become one and ratatouille. Well, for me, that's nostalgia because I remember, okay, I'm not doing the wrong thing. Here's another minister who's tapping into movies. You know, I think I heard Reverend Cheryl Fay also talk about Inside Out recently. The point here is that we need to understand within our own lives is that emotions are good to have. And Inside Out puts it perfectly. And now she's a 13-year-old girl. But, you know, as they say sometimes, I'm 54 years old, but I'm also 13 with, I forgot, I'm not going to do the math, with how many years of experience. We still have that inner child we're dealing with, whether it's we're working on trauma, where we're working on past experiences. We have that inner child who's still 13 and still feels these emotions. But it's up to us to begin to understand and learn how to work through that. Our 5 principles are perfect for this because we realize that intuition within ourselves, whether we call it God, whether we call it spirit, we call it universe, whatever it is in and through and all around us and on through every one of us. And principle number 2 tells us that we're good because we are a part of that. You know, it's like a fish who doesn't realize they're swimming in water, that they're still part of the ocean. We know that our thoughts, we just talked about that, when we harmonize those emotions within ourselves, we begin to create that. So when we move into that higher consciousness, then we can express into our world what we want. And we use prayer and affirmations a lot of times, and both of them are the same, meditation, which brings us to some of the steps we can take toward working. And one of them is mindfulness. And people think, oh, mindfulness is just being present. No, mindfulness is being truly present. It's being a part of what you do. So when we talk about mindful eating, it's taking that bite, tasting, feeling, engaging with it. When we talk about mindful walking, what do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear in that moment? So when those emotions come up and you breathe into that mindfulness section, think about it. Why am I angry right now? Why am I sad? Why do I feel envious? Could there be a lesson or a meaning behind it? Be one with those emotions. Don't move in, just visit, but move forward. And also compassion. We have to have compassion for others because they're going through the same thing we do. If you did watch the movie, you notice that the father and the mother also have their boards and have their emotions, and they're going through the same thing. But understand that a lot of times we don't know what other people's journeys are, and we empathize, we try to be in their shoes. But I think it was Brene Brown who said it, that sometimes when we don't know what to do, is like, hey, I don't know what to say, but guess what? I'm here for you. But most important is to have compassion for ourselves. In the end, we saw Riley get back with her friends. She got back on the ice. She plays a great game. She's enjoying herself. She's no longer anxious. She doesn't really care now about what's going to happen in a way that it's causing her pain. Yes, she's excited if she makes the team. And I did hate that the movie cuts off before they tell us if she makes the team. But the whole point is, it no longer, and I get it, because for me, that cut scene cutting off was that of saying, I'm leaving you in a place of anxiety, but it's okay either way. So how do we move forward? Well, most important is now to embrace our full self, knowing that we have all these emotions within ourselves, and we're going to feel joy and we're going to feel sadness. We're going to be anxious and we're going to be confident. We're going to remember and we're going to worry. But the point here is to embrace all of that as a whole and know that that makes our personalities. For me, I always remember Reverend Beckwith's words, where he says, worry is nothing more than you manifesting into your life what you didn't want in the first place. So when I know I'm in worry, I can move forward and say, hey, wait, no, don't want this coming out me. Let's move forward. Let's move past. Let's do what we need to do. So we remember that every emotion we experience is a gift from within, if we look at them as gifts. And when we embrace our full selves, we open the door to greater wisdom, love, and connection. So as we end this, let's take a breath and let's begin to breathe in, close our eyes, and let us begin to bring up those emotions we're feeling, whether it's, I touched on something that make you feel a little bit anxious today, whether you're feeling joy, you're feeling sad about something that happened. Let's take those emotions in right now. But rather than dwell in them, let's celebrate them. Let's thank them for feeling joy. Thank you for bringing this happiness into my life. If we're feeling sad, great. Thank you for reminding me that it's okay to miss whatever it is. If we're feeling a little anxious, it's okay. I get it. The future is upon us and we're writing our future, But thank you for letting me know that I'm looking toward that. If it's envy, thank you. You've pointed something in my life right now that I am interested in, that I may want to do. And if it's just sitting in the quiet of nostalgia, of knowing of the things in the past, and we're just reminiscing and on the good times, well, thank you, thank you, thank you, because I had these experiences in life. And even if it is embarrassment, where we may have done in our past that we now realize, oh my God, what am I looked at? That's okay. It was an experience. Thank you for that experience, because it also taught me what not to do again. And if it was an accident, so be it. But most important, let's thank ourselves as we move through this in the silence for a bit and know that we are grateful for it all, and that we have that power within ourselves to unify those emotions, to know that they are a blessing and they are the tools that will create that new personality for which we let go of the old and bring in the new. Take a deep breath in, and let's go ahead and just enter the silence. As we breathe deeply one more time, we remember that we are wonderfully made. We are one with this universe. We are one with nature. We are one with each other. And it is through the unification of our emotions, unification of those 12 wonderful powers within ourselves, and allowing that energy to go share that with everyone else, we create a universe we want to live in. And with all the challenges in the world today, they need us. They need each and every one of us. But most importantly, we say thank you to all the gifts that we have received, to who we are today. And we know that all of this is done because we say it is, and so it is, and so we let it be. And we affirm it with an ashe, so mote be, and amen. And you can come back to this place and time and open your eyes as you feel so moved. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. We're grateful for you.